Hi, guys. Welcome to the Church Split. My name is Will, and you guys know what we do here. We help you escape your church's echo chamber, learn to think biblically, and of course, challenge the status quo. That always needs challenging. But before we get into everything, like and subscribe to the Church Split. And I always forget to plug Patreon. If you want to support us on Patreon, that'd be great. We are actually every single Sunday, I teach an apologetics class at my church, and I release those classes a whole month early before they're released to the public for the patrons because we wanted to do some sort of gesture to you guys for giving us your hard-earned money. So we use all that money to just help support this because sometimes it actually, believe it or not, costs money to do this stuff. So anyway, so I don't want to tally very long on this. I don't want to I feel like that was the wrong word, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to hang out on this for too long. Just at the intro because this is bonkers. So a couple of things, guys. Clearly, we're going to be talking about Narnia. And so for those of you guys who do not know, I might, and this is going to come as a shock to some of you, I am a huge nerd. I know. Hold back the shock and awe, but I'm a big nerd. And Narnia, of course, like so many people, impacted me in my life. And with me also doing like some media reviews and stuff like that, it just seemed like this was a perfect marriage of things to bring together. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but a while back, Netflix actually purchased the rights to create Narnia content. So they actually own the licensing now, and they can make a Narnia TV show. They've talked about doing a whole production on Narnia. And a bunch of people were like, yeah, we're so excited for Narnia. And then there was people like me who was like, oh, kill me, because I already know it's probably going to be terrible. Because if you know anything about Netflix, it is either going to be really, 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 really good or really, 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 really bad. And then whatever they make has to be filled with political agendas and not about the source material. So those of you guys who were keeping up like with The Witcher, that was a big issue with The Witcher show that derailed. Henry Cavill, of course, left, and the whole thing's going down the drain. And this has happened many times at Netflix. That's just a most recent example. And then, of course, they've been shoehorning LGBT stuff no matter what it is. Like, Stranger Things, of course, why not? Why not just one character, but when you can have two, and then it's constant and all the other stuff. So this was a concern of mine because Narnia is a Christian allegory. It's a Christian production, really. It's a Christian literature, right? And so for those of you who are living under a rock, Chronicles of Narnia, especially The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, was written by C.S. Lewis, and it's a complete allegory of Christianity. If you don't know that by now, you're living under a rock. And if you do know that, it's probably because you live not under a rock. So anyway, so with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through this article. So what I did was when I found this out, I Googled Chronicles of Narnia, and then this article came up, and it's by a lady named, I think, Polly Toynbee, right? Yeah, Polly Toynbee. And I got cancer when I saw this, because the headline is, Narnia represents everything that is most hateful about religion. Yeah. So that's going to be a garbage take right away. So I was like, wait, hold on. When I saw that, I'm like, I have to read this. So I did, and I have to share it with you because here's what's interesting. This was written after the 2005 movie, actually right before the 2005 movie was released. So that movie, by the way, me and my entire family went and saw it. My dad took us all, and my dad was, he actually was a pretty big fan of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So he took us all of us kids to go see this movie, and I fell in love with it. I loved it as a kid. And what's amazing is that if you go back and watch it as an adult, it still holds up. There's a few like green screen ugly moments, but I mean, that's expected. It's the early 2000s, but it actually holds up really well. And I was surprised. We recently watched it with my brother-in-law, and it still holds up well. And so it's a good movie. And then this Polly Toynbee, right before it came out, wrote this for The Guardian. And this is my concern. So Netflix has the rights to this, and this is the kind of language that was being talked about in 2005, okay? We are 18 years from that, right? So Imagine how much worse it is now. So let's just get that out of the way. So obviously, Chronicles of Narnia has had a huge influence on our culture, especially in Christianity, but just our culture at large. It blew up. Like Chronicles of Narnia is massive, and so is, of course, his friend J.R. Tolkien. Many of you guys are familiar with his works like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And that's the thing. The 2005 movie really was coming off of that. So Lord of the Rings happened, smash hit. Harry Potter was happening, and Disney was like, we need our own money-making franchise. And then they did Narnia. And the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was really great. And then after that, it went through like production hell. They were really having a hard time keeping up with it, which is why like all the other two sequels were so far removed from the first one, and it just lost all hype. So anyway, Polly Toynbee, the author of this article, she's a British journalist. And she is a social democrat and was actually a candidate for the Social Democrat Party in 1983 general election. So that there should tell you a lot about what we're about to look at. So anyway, and I will just get this out of the way right now. You can tell an awful lot about an article and that it's probably going to be trash when they attempt to speak in as much sanctimonious drivel as possible. It's an attempt to basically sound smart and sophisticated while only speaking in opinions and parading them as facts. So I find it rather amusing. So anyway, just so you guys know, I have the article that I will be sharing on the screen with you guys, and I have notes on it on my iPad because I don't have like 16 monitors where I can just share one with you while I read notes over here. I'm on a budget, so actually it's just I don't have room. I might be able to make two happen here, but anyway. So with no further ado, let's read this trash. Okay, so I'm going to add the article to my to the stream here. Bam! And all right, so you guys should be able to see that now. So there she is, Polly Toynbee, and we're just going to literally read through the entire thing, and I'm going to make commentary as we go, because this is just amazing, because this should be a telltale sign of why I am nervous about the Narnia franchise coming out. Also shows you everything wrong with like secular society today and how they understand Christianity. Anyway, she says, Aslan the lion shakes his mighty mane and roars out across Narnia and eternity. Christ is risen. However, not many British children these days will get the message. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe opens this week to take up the mantle left by Lord of the Rings. C.S. Lewis's 7 children's books, The Chronicles of Narnia, will be with us now and for many Christmases to come. Only Harry Potter has outsold these well-loved books, which is 85 million copies apparently. How suitable that one fantasy saga should follow on from another, despite the immense difference between the writings and magic worlds of these two old Oxford dons. It was J.R.R. Tolkien who converted C.S. Lewis to Christianity during one long all-night walk and ended in dawn and revelation. Narnia is a strange blend of magic, myth, and Christianity. Some of it is brilliantly fantastical and richly imaginative. Some, the clunking allegory, toe-curlingly, cringingly awful. Told you guys, it's cancer. You're welcome. So right off the bat, she says that it's like, she's like, oh, it's all great except for the allegory, which is literally what Chronicles of Narnia is. Period. It is allegory. That's the entire point. So she's like, yeah, it's all great except for the thing that makes it great. And she says it's fantastic and wonderful when it's not basically pushing the Christian message. But what it is, it's doing the Christian message. It's cringy, but the entire thing is literally that. So right off the bat, she's saying, I don't like this, right? That should tell you a lot about where we're going with this. So let's go. Let's just keep pushing here. All right. So this is going to be painful. All right. The new Disney film is remarkably faithful rendition of the books of the book Faithful in both senses. It is beautiful to look at and wonderfully acted. The 4 English children in their world are all authentically C.S. Lewis Old England, but from its opening scenes of the bombing of their Finchley home in the Blitz and the tear-jerking evacuation from their mother in a spotlessly clean steam train, there is an emotional undertow to this film that tugs on the heartstrings from the first frames. By the end, it feels profoundly manipulative, as Disney usually does. But then, that is also deeply faithful to the book's own arm-twisting emotional call to believers. So, right here. So my favorite part is she says that it's beautifully faithful, right? It's a great faithful rendition of the books, but how dare it be so faithful because it's just as manipulative. So when she says like, oh, it starts off and it pulls on your heartstrings and makes you tear, and it's just really trying to get you into the drama of it because that way it can manipulate at you at the end with this Christian message. And my only point here is really, like all other media, any good story should do that. If you don't have your audience hooked at the beginning of your movie or your book, you're not going to keep many of them, right? That's why movies whenever I tell people watch a movie and I know it's a great movie, but it doesn't have a strong hook at the beginning, I always tell them it's a slow burn, right? And a lot of people use that terminology. It's a slow burn. One of my favorite movies of all time is Ridley Scott's Alien. But I'm telling you what right now, that movie is a slow burn. I love it, but I can see why some people are like, oh boy, that first like hour feels really slow. I totally understand. But anyway, so because Disney's not the only one that does that. So this right here should tell you that these people come at it with an agenda already, because basically, oh, it's got this great acting, it's got this great tone, it's beautiful, it's fantastical, it's got an engaging story, but because it's got a Christian message, it must be manipulative and bad. See this? You see what I mean here? It's instantly a problem. So the film she says the film arm twists because it delivers well on the emotional beats and themes. Really? Again, like a normal good movie. I don't see anyone complaining about that. And movies like, Strange World that just came out with like an LGBT kid in it, right? They don't say that. They just say, "Oh wow, so beautiful, so brave," But so basically, yeah, I hear her. She just hates good writing. All right. She just doesn't like good writing. So this is, again, the person who would probably love Netflix's adaptations because they would make most of the characters like, watch it happen. Netflix does this. Edmund is going to be gay. I can promise you that. Right. Oh, yeah. He's just misunderstood. And they're just like the Christian snotty kids who don't understand him. Watch it happen. Right. And then she'd be like, oh, wow, that's beautiful and brave. Finally, character development, because sexuality and ethnicity apparently are character qualities now as opposed to well-written characters, despite any of those things. So, in fact, right now, The Last of Us, at this point, The Last of Us TV show on HBO, I don't know how it ends. So what I'm saying has the first 2 episodes up right now. And the first 2 episodes of The Last of Us, people are loving it. And Ellie is known to be a lesbian and in the video game. So everyone knows this. It's pretty well known. And yet even Christians are like, yeah, this is done well because we're caring about character development, right? Good story beats, like make me care about these characters. You're asking me to be invested in them in a multi-hour long saga. You better make me like them. So anyhow, that's stupid. So all right, let's move on and keep checking this article out. Cool. All right. So Disney is deliberately promoting this film to be religious. It has a point. Sorry, Disney is deliberately promoting this film to be religious. You mean because it is? It's a religious allegory. So stupid. It has appointed outreach and evangelical publisher to promote the Christian message behind the movie in British churches. The Christian radio station Premier is urging churches to hold services on the theme of the gospel according to Narnia. Okay, that's a little weird, I'm not going to lie. Even the Methodists have written a special Narnia-themed service, and a Kent parish is giving $10,000 worth of film tickets to single-parent families. Are the children of single mothers in special need of the word? So let's be honest, only a hardcore leftist could take free tickets to families who, generally speaking, can't go do fun things because they're on a tighter budget. Only they would be like, why, are they more in need? Can they not afford to go? Like, dude, I'm a middle-class American and I'm excited for free tickets. Shut up. It's just so silly. So, of course, some of the ridiculous things here is it deliberately promoting this film as being religious when it is literally just that. It is religious in... Oh, you can't. It's so funny. So And here's the other thing. She's saying it markets toward like religious audiences and Christians, and like all these churches were getting in on this movie at the time. And this is why I am concerned about this, and also why most modern media sucks, and why the Narnia show by Netflix is likely going to suck as well. So, because it's knowing the audience. People don't know audiences anymore. Whenever you hear that phrase like, oh, this is made for modern audiences, you should instantly be concerned, because it usually means that we are just promoting like a woke agenda, or we care about like a super strong character that is normally portrayed as weak, like female characters or whatever, and then they strip out anything that makes them unique. Think Rey from Star Wars. That's a big fan. Like, again, I mentioned Ridley Scott's Alien. Watch Alien and see how awesome Ripley is, because you see her fear in Alien and Aliens, but you see her motherliness and her femininity still. And then you go watch something like Rey from Star Wars, and you tell me at the end which one you feel more connected with, okay? So again, this whole idea of like, oh, they marketed to Christians. Yes, because it's Christian literature. Again, Harry Potter, so basically by this logic, Harry Potter shouldn't market to young adults. Twilight shouldn't market to teenage girls. 50 Shades of Grey shouldn't be marketing to bored housewives who have far too much time on their hands. Anyway, but honestly, if someone was making a movie about Muhammad or an allegory about Muhammad, and you were not marketing Muslims, you'd be stupid, because you'd be marketing the wrong audience, right? That's so dumb. So know your audience. Narnia is literally Christian literature. It's better to market Christians, right? This is the problem, again, with that modern audience curse, as I was saying. So they forget the audience. They think, again, that race, sexuality, gender are character qualities worth caring about, but miss the bulk of what makes a good character, which is them as a person, their flaws, their fears, and see them overcome those things, see them struggle against those things. That's what makes it good, right? So it's so silly. So again, know your audience, make good characters. Studios are so out of touch nowadays, and Netflix is definitely one of them. So Netflix, do not follow this woman's advice. If you want your show to be a smash hit, market it to Christians. Simple as that. You market to Christians and stay faithful to the source material, you'll be great. In fact, actually, if you're just faithful to the source material, you're going to be great. You don't even need to market to Christians, because non-Christians like Narnia, and they're okay with the allegories, because you know what? Even if you think Christianity is a myth, people like stories that are based on myths. Okay, actually, there's that movie that came out. Was it last year or the year before? The Northman. That movie was awesome, but a lot of people don't realize that that Shakespeare's oh my gosh, I keep wanting to say Hansel. That's not it. Anyway, but Shakespeare based one of his plays off of it. If you know, let me know in the chat below, because it's driving me crazy that it starts with an H, I know, and it's just driving me nuts. So Shakespeare based on that Northman story, and then guess what? The Lion King is based off of the Shakespeare story. Hansel? That's not that. What is it? That's driving me crazy right now. But anyway, this is why you should not speak off of your away from your notes, because then this makes you sound dumb. So anyway, when I think of like what happened with Rings of Power, right? Rings of Power wasn't faithful to its source material. A lot of people hated it. It did not feel Tolkien-esque, because it was against the philosophy, essentially, of what made Tolkien so great, which, by the way, Inspiring Philosophy has a great video on that if you haven't watched it before. So if you follow this woman's advice, Netflix, you will lose, and you lose the Christian themes in Narnia. You will lose the heart of Narnia, and you'll end up basically creating a bastardization that no one likes. Again, think the new Velma series that everyone's hating on, the Rings of Power, Witcher. All these are great examples of people that were not well received by a lot of people. So when people watch Narnia, they want Narnia, right? I've never heard anything so insanely stupid as to complain that a Christian themes in a Christian media within Christian literature is wrong because it's marketing Christians. It's so stupid. So although Narnia themed services is messed up, it's an And like, I don't like that, right? Christian, like if you go to church and it's like a Narnia theme, I'd be like, okay, that's weird. That's messed up. I don't like that. I think that's wrong, but marketing Christians is actually pretty smart. So Narnia theme services is stupid, but because it's not scripture, but obviously keep that where it belongs. So let's move on. Let's keep on trucking. All right. So U.S. born-agains are using the movie. The Mission America Coalition is inviting church leaders around the country to consider the fantastic ministry opportunity presented by the release of this film. The president's brother, Jeb Bush, the governor of Florida, is organizing a scheme. It's a scheme, guys. It's a scheme for every child in his state to read the book. Oh my gosh, it is a horrible scheme to have children read literature within history that has had a massive cultural impact. You're right. You know what? Children in schools also shouldn't read Lord of the Flies. Whatever. Walden Media, co-producer of the movie, offers a 17-week Narnia Bible study for children. Okay, that's a little weird. I'll admit that. The owner of Walden Media is both a big Republican donor and donor to the Florida governor's book promotion. A neat synergy of politics, religion, and product placement. It has aroused protests from Americans United for Separation of Church and State. That sounds like a garbage organization, which complains that a governmental endorsement of the book's religious message is a violation of the First Amendment rights. And this is why it's so stupid, because guess what? It is not a violation of the First Amendment rights. In fact, it could easily be argued that it is quite the opposite. Somebody being able to speak about what they endorse is literally free speech, even if you're in government. Like, if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez randomly was just like, hey, I don't know, some book based on an allegory of the Quran, all right? And no one would bat an eye, right? It's not that big of a deal because you're saying that you like something. Now, him trying to get other kids to read it, great. Also, I don't see the problem with churches being like, oh my gosh, Narnia, this huge thing that has a huge Christian message to it that people are going to flock to for entertainment. This is a great opportunity for us to share the Christian story that it's based on. That's perfectly logical. I don't see the problem at all. Like, hey, you want to understand that allegory? That was actually an allegory. If they didn't know it, then they will. And also when she says that U.S. born-agains, like that's what she calls it, U.S. born-agains. This woman is so condescending. You can hear the tone right there, right? You mean Christians? I thought you liberals were all about inclusivism, right? Like I thought that was your whole shtick. So come on, this feels like the exact opposite of such. So using a mocking term like this towards Islam or Hinduism would get, she would actually probably frown upon. But it's okay because you're Christian. Inclusivism and all that. Remember. When she says, like, it has aroused protests from American United Separation of Church and State about the free speech issue because, with Jeb Bush, right, he's a Christian man who is in politics. He encourages Christians to use this as an opportunity to expose people to a Christian message. And she says it violates it doesn't. It's an exercise of the First Amendment rights. That's why, like, the idea of separation of church and state, people don't understand that. The point was that the church can't be in power with the state. It doesn't mean that the state can't use terms like "in God we trust" or that people in government can't be religious. People are they don't understand what these things are. He wants every child in the state to read the book. Again, not a problem. Sorry, I'm going through my notes. Also, it's a fantasy story, right? So you're endorsing a fantasy story that's based on a Christian allegory. I see no one complaining in schools when they often require reading like The Hobbit. The Hobbits are oftentimes Hamlet. Sorry, the live chat. Thank you, Jeremy. Hamlet. I was like, it was driving me nuts. Okay, so make that point again. The Northmen, the original story, Hamlet was based on the Northmen. The Lion King was based on Hamlet, which was based on the Northmen. There we go. Oh, Jeremy, thank you. I feel stupid. I'm going to just put you on the screen there so that way everyone knows. I'm sure anyone listening to the audio after this is like, oh my word, I can't believe I actually subscribed to this podcast because Will is dumber than dirt. Anyhow, so as I was saying, The Hobbit is required reading in many schools. Many schools require The Hobbit to be read. Tolkien was also a Christian with many Christian themes as well. pay attention to Lord of the Rings. There's a ton of Christian themes. So why isn't that a violation of First Amendment rights for someone to be like, yeah, everyone should read The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings? It's just silly. What about other classical works with Christian messages in them? You know, like the book Jane Eyre from 1847, which is considered a classic work. Are all these to be banned? Like, it gets ridiculous. This is why it doesn't matter. People should be able to read things, right? So these are the people again. So again, this leftist mentality are the people again who want to focus on things like slavery and the past sins of our culture and our nation, and they scream like, "You can't ignore our history. Notice the slavery and all the things and the racism in our past," while at the same time pretending that our history isn't also dripping with Christian influence. It's not even remotely honest. So I say we just do both, right? We talk about the good and the bad in history, and we talk about our influences, and we're completely okay with that, what's impacted our culture, especially her being in Britain. Like, Europe was and is, in many ways, still like a Christian central force. Like, that's where Germany, you know, is where a lot of great theologians are from. And C.S. Lewis himself was British, which is what makes us funny here in a little bit. So anyway, she says, she continues on. This just gets sillier as we go. Disney may come to regret this alliance with Christians, at least on this side of the Atlantic. For all the enthusiasm of churches, Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ bombed in Britain, and warehouses are stuffed with unsold DVDs of The Stomach Churner. There are too few practicing Christians in the empty pews of this most secular nation to pack cinemas. So there has been a queasy ambivalence about how to sell the Narnia film here. Its director, Andrew Adamson of Shrek fame, says the movie's Christian themes are open to the audience to interpret. One soundtrack album of the film has been released with religious music, and the other with secular pop. By the way, if you haven't listened to the soundtrack of the 2005 Narnia film, you are missing out. That slaps. It's such a good soundtrack. And I also like how she's like, yeah, it's got like Christian messages. And then again, the Christian literature-based film has Christian sounding lyrics. Oh no. But then also the end credits with a pop, like she almost says it like it's like a bad thing that has pop. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like because of the condescension, that has a condescending tone as well. But again, that's pretty normal. Like, you know, orchestral scores throughout, and then pop music themed off of the movie in the credits scene. That's pretty normal. So when she says that, this is what cracked me up though. Okay. So remember when I said that most of these elites are entirely disconnected and tone deaf? Remember I said that at the beginning, or something along that nature. So this is a great example of such, when she's saying that Disney's going to regret this, that Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ it wasn't a big hit essentially in Britain, and that the warehouses are chock full of the DVDs, stuff like that. So I did a little thing called Google, just for kicks and giggles. So remember the absolute ridiculous travesty of the Passion of the Christ and trying to market that to British people and how silly the whole thing was. The Passion of the Christ grossed $612.1 million. Yeah, she's right. Too few practicing Christians to fill the theaters, let alone the pews. She's right. You know, $612.1 million later, definitely no audience there, I'm sure. Oh, but what's this? Narnia? What did Narnia make? I'm sure that was just a big flop because, you know, marketing to Christians who can't even fill pews is, you know, silly and foolish. $745 million. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that was stupid, right? That was foolish for them to market it the way they did. So I guess Christian marketing was a big waste of time, and there really aren't enough Christians to fill the seats. So silly. These people, seriously, like the leftist elites especially, but the elites in general, are the most tone deaf people on the planet, dripping really with self-righteous arrogance, but not understanding the majority of normal people. Look at a voting map. Notice how much, like just in America, notice how much is red, notice how much is blue. You'll notice that the areas that are blue are mostly highly concentrated areas in big cities, and the rest are rural country areas or like more like smaller, less urban states. And it's like those are generally speaking, your Republicans who are going to be Christian. That's probably going to be a stronger theme there. And guess what? Christians, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of us Christians. You should look, we're one of the, biggest religions on the planet. A lot of times Christians are just tired of being condescended to and preached at by a secular society who doesn't understand Christianity enough to even speak to it in the first place. So when Christians actually are given like proper good media that represents things properly, they get stoked about it. They're like, oh, finally something that's well done, because we all know Christian media tends to be trash. So bad. And that's why I think The Chosen's been so popular. Even though I haven't watched a single episode of it, I've heard nothing but that it's really well done, even from my theology geek friends. So anyway, again, in the movies and media, the only thing that should matter is the money, right? Let's be honest. If you're making something, if you're producing something, the only thing you should worry about is the money, which means you should be trying to do faithful adaptations to video games or books, and that you should be trying to market the right people, just like what made those successful. And that's what blows me away. It's very simple. It's very simple. Keep faithful to the source material and market the same audience, and you'll be successful. And then you'll pick up other stragglers along the way who don't like to read as much or something, right? Or who don't play video games. So, and then she goes on, again, the soundtrack is absolutely awesome. It was, so back then I actually listened to that soundtrack probably once a day. I bought the CD back when CD and cassette players were still pretty normal, but I bought the CD, had a little Walkman CD player kind of situation there. You guys might remember those. I listened to the Narnia soundtrack all the time. In fact, when I did martial arts stuff, I did a martial arts thing to one of the soundtracks, oddly enough. So anyway, there's no queasy ambivalence here. They knew how to market it, and it was a wild success. So too bad the rest of the series basically suffered from development hell, but Narnia was fantastic back then. So anyway, then she goes on to make things worse. She says, most British children will be utterly clueless about any message beyond the age-old mythic battle between good and evil. Most of the fairy story works as well as the Norse saga, pagan legend, or modern fantasy. So only the minority who are familiar with Christian iconography will see Jesus and the lion. After all, 43% of people in Britain in a recent poll couldn't say what Easter celebrated. Among the young, apart from those in faith schools, that number must be considerably higher. Ask art galleries. They now have to write the story of every religious painting on the labels, as people no longer know what agony in the garden or deposition or transfiguration or ascension means. This may be regrettable cultural ignorance, but it means Aslan will stay just a lion to most moviegoers. So, because he will remain just a lion, it means, you know what, just get rid of the religious themes, because, I mean, what would you do? Like, how do you remove that? So, like, Aslan's supposed to be like this glorious, awe-inspiring presence when you see him. He dies on the stone table and resurrects, gives himself over to the witch to be killed on Edmund's behalf. Like, all these things happen, and it's so... Like, how do you tell that story then without those religious themes? Because half those things are exactly the importance of, like... I don't understand. What do people want? Like, how can you possibly even try? So... Again, people might not get the messaging, right? Okay, so maybe she's right. Maybe up to 43%. And I'm sure that's a very biased poll, because you cannot tell me that many people really don't know what Easter is about. I feel like that's exaggerated poll of some sort, or a very weird pool of people that was taken. But maybe they don't. Whatever. The world's full of dumber people. But I'm sure it's just a thing, and ignorance is high, and religious themes are being more and more removed from things. So maybe, possibly, but I doubt. Strong doubt. Let me know what you think in the comments below if you think that's true. Or even better yet, if you find that poll, post it. That'd be interesting. So anyway, again, you might not get the messaging, right? Who cares? That's not the point. The point is to be faithful to your source material. And by doing that, make money, right? And recently, the story that, again, the Northman came out, and the Northman came out, And no one knew, most people, at least, most people didn't know that the Northman was based on, that Hamlet was based on the Northman. And most people don't know that the Lion King is based on Hamlet. Who cares? You're just being, you're just being, what's the word? You're just being faithful to the source material. That is all. Like, that should be your main goal. So, anyway, let's what else here? So she said, among the young, apart from the those in faith school. So even if this were so, does it really matter that kids don't get all of this? That kids don't know all that? Does it really matter? Not really, right? It really doesn't, because again, being faithful to source material doesn't mean people have to know the source material, right? Many people love Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Now, are they perfect in every way? No, like Lord of the Rings removes Tom Bombadil. The Deathly Hallows Part 2 changes the way Harry and the wand and how, at the end works, and how Voldemort is basically killed. Like that entire scene's a little different in the books. But overall, they were a wild success because they were extremely faithful. But also, I did not read Lord of the Rings before I watched the movies back when I was a kid, because those movies came out when I was young, and then I wasn't allowed to watch them, but I was allowed to watch Narnia. Make that make sense. Dad, if you watch this, you know what you did. You know that doesn't make sense now. Just saying. It's a problem. Deeply hurt. Anyhow, so the fact that this secular woman who says the culture is ignorant on such things, while also clearly using theological language like transfiguration, that should be quite telling that these people know more than they are claiming, because she herself knows quite a bit about it as a liberal. So I just find this funny, because she's like, none of these people will get it, as she says from her liberal elite tower, which she clearly does. So, and then what is alternate media? What's going on, guys? They say that the age-old myth of the battle between good and evil is inherently religious. To strip religion from it is to strip it of all relatable relevance. Absolutely. And that's exactly it. Like, the battle between good and evil is religious. That is absolutely true, right? Righteousness versus the unrighteous, the good versus the wicked. That's why God is always talked about as the light, and that in him is no darkness at all. That's all part of that. There's like that idea, like there's a sense of a dualistic view of good versus evil, that because that you are referencing a moral standard, right? A reference point for what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is evil. Otherwise, you just have disagreement of the highly evolved and intelligent monkeys. I feel like there's a meme in there with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I'm not clever enough to come up with one right now. But anyway. So okay, let's see what else is on here, because this is gonna be great. So she says, all the same, children may puzzle over the lion and ask embarrassing questions. Or inquisitive questions, like, why is it embarrassing to ask what the lion is? Whatever. For non-C.S. Lewis aficionados, here is a recap. The four children enter Narnia through a wardrobe and find themselves in a land frozen into always winter, never Christmas. But the White Witch, played by the elemental force by Tilda Swinton, by the way, that was a great casting. She did an amazing job. Unhappy middle child Edmund, resentful of being bossed about by his older brother, broods with meanness and misery. The devil, in the shape of the witch, tempts him for the price of several chunks of Turkish delight rather than 30 pieces of silver. Edmund betrays his siblings and their Narnian friends. Can we please, by the way, address this for a moment, though? Why Turkish delight? The most subpar candy sweet on planet Earth, and that's what it is. Actually, if you read the book, by the way, it's like basically the candy she gave him was like this ultimate temptation that made him crave for more. So think of it kind of like a drug. So anyhow, that I find to be yeah, that's just, again, okay. So of course, the way she recaps it is a little condescending, but who cares? All right, that's the sins of the sons of Adam can only be redeemed by the supreme sacrifice of Aslan, the Christ lion, willingly laying down his life, submitting himself to be bound, threshed, and humiliated by the White Witch, allowing his golden mane to be cut and himself to be slaughtered on the sacrificial stone table. It cracks in sympathetic agony, and his body goes missing. The two girls lay down their heads and weep, Magdalene and Mary like. Be warned, the film lingers long and lovingly over all this. Like, Again, these people remove all joy from any sort of media. You want to know why your media sucks now? You want to know why stories suck now? It's because of people like this who just take the good thing that you love and just cram it down and make it suck. And they're just like, nope, that's all bad. So the moment that this godlike creature that everyone hears about, this Aslan who's on the move, and everyone's like, who's this Aslan guy? Then when he comes out, like he steps out of the tent, you see him for the first time. It's playing this majestic music, and it like the sun is gleaming on him because it's supposed to be giving off like a godlike, Christ-like glow about him. And in general, he's supposed to be like a very divine being in Aslan in Narnia lore, and he gives his life up for a sniveling brat who wanted to turn in his siblings and rule over them. And he gets killed as a martyr, and it's bad that it lingers long and heavy on this to show the value of life. Again, of course, these are people who are probably for abortion and whatnot, so they don't really care about that. But the fact that somebody would lay down their life and be that selfless is, it lingers long and heavy at the loss of this beloved main character that the movie spends 2/3 of hyping up. Yes, it should. I mean, did anyone does anyone complain in I Am Legend when they linger long and heavy at his dog's death? No. Oh, but it's a problem when Narnia does it because, Narnia is Jesus. So that's got to be a problem. A group of people that say think about that too, like the leftist people, the people who say they love and care about others can't even get behind a part of the narrative that is literally about the selfless giving of oneself. Throw the Christian message out the window for a second. You can't get behind that because you just don't like the fact that it's got a Christian message. And this was written, by the way, guys, remember, 18 years ago when that movie came out. And Netflix is supposed to be putting on this, and things are far more liberal than they were back then. My hopes are not high. So this exposes really her selfish outlook at the world because it's not about serving others, but it's about serving herself, apparently. Self-sacrificial giving? Well, we can't have any of that nonsense. Roll out the vague and ambiguous morality and the dark and broody heroes with ambiguous moral values. Now, don't get me wrong. I like a good dark narrative with an anti-hero, same as the next guy. I really do. But you know what? Sometimes it really is nice and refreshing. I find Narnia refreshing, right? Because as someone who likes those darker and more complicated anti-heroes, sometimes it's nice to have something that is purely wholesome without trying to show like moral gray and make you wrestle with those things. Instead, it just shows straight up awe-inspiring righteousness versus wickedness and evil. And because what it does is actually kind of cuts down the middle here and says, yeah, those morally gray, ambiguous things aren't actually morally gray. There is a right and wrong to them. And Narnia is very big on that. And so is Christianity and Judaism and other groups, but we can't have any of that because we live in a secular, pluralistic society that doesn't like being told what they're doing is wrong while they sit in their ivory tower and tell you that you're wrong. So there's that cancer for the day. All right, let's keep moving. So, but then she goes, where am I? She goes, but so far so good. The story makes sense. The lion exchanging his life for Edmund's is the sort of thing Arthurian legends are made of. Oh, so now you're okay with it. Parfait knights and heroes in prisoner of war camps do it all the time. But what's this? After a long dark night of the soul and women's weeping, the lion is suddenly alive. Why? How? Many children used to ask. Well, it is hard to say why. It does not make any more sense in C.S. Lewis's tale than in the Gospels. Aslan explains, it is the deep magic where pure sacrifice alone vanquishes death. Okay, real quick. So how does that not make sense? It makes as much sense as it does in the gospel accounts. You mean because Jesus is divine? Like, anyone reading the gospel accounts knows that it makes sense. Whether you agree with Christianity or not, the very fact of what is being said about Jesus makes sense in the narrative. Okay, the whole thing that my time is not yet come. There's going to be a promised resurrection of the dead that was prophesied in Judaism and Israel for hundreds of years before. And Paul talks about that afterwards. It makes sense. He's the firstborn of all creation, the first resurrected one. And in him, we get to partake of the resurrection. It's mystical. It's mystical. It's powerful. It's mythical. It's got this otherworldly spirituality to it. And this is coming from, she's like, this doesn't make sense, but really? Anything with supernatural stuff could be accused of the same thing. But again, because it's Christian, well, now it just doesn't make sense. And she's like, well, what, how? Oh, he describes this, the deep magic. Yes, the deep magic is an allegory for natural law, which is basically an ontological law that binds all things, including God himself, because he, by his own nature, is that ontology. He is that natural law. It lives and resides within him, and he abides by it, which is why he can never do no evil. He cannot tell a lie. So it's just, the deep magic. That is a perfectly fine explanation compared to some of the ridiculous plot twists I've seen in other media that literally don't make sense. You guys know which ones I'm talking about. Like certain plot twists at the end, like in the movie Sixth Sense, make perfect sense. And once you know the plot twist and you rewatch the movie, it makes the movie all that much better. But then there's other movies like that horror film that came out a while ago called like The Boy, where the guy like lives in the wall and the doll was never really possessed. Spoiler alert, sorry. That plot twist doesn't really make a lot of sense when you rewatch the film. It's just like, okay. So, Jeremy Williams says, apparently someone needs to cite the deep magic to that witch. Got him. All right. So, all right, let's just watch the rest of this. Read the rest of this. This is going to be great. So, all right. Of all the elements of Christianity, oh, this is great. The most repugnant is the notion of the Christ who took our sins upon himself and sacrificed his body in agony to save our souls. Did we ask him, poor child Edmund, to blame himself for everything, must bear the full weight of guilt only Christians know how to inflict with a twisted knife to the heart? Every one of those thorns the nuns used to tell my mother is hammered into Jesus's holy head every day you don't eat your greens and say your prayers when we are told. So the resurrected Aslan gives Edmund a long, life-changing talking to high up on the rocks out of earshot. When the poor boy comes down with the sacred lion's breath upon him, he is transformed unrecognizably into a Stepford brother, well and truly purged. Again, Christian allegory. That's normal. That's what should be here. But also, how is it the most repugnant thing to save people's lives who didn't ask? Because, and of course, a typical like liberal, right? Like, oh, and we went on like 6 dates and he tried to kiss me and I never asked him. I didn't give consent for him to try to kiss me because they literally don't know how romance works. But, that's all the rage nowadays of how half the stuff is like, well, we didn't ask him to save our lives. You know what? Cool. Then if there's ever a giant asteroid that is going to smash into our planet and destroy it all, I'll make sure I call all 7 billion people and make sure they're cool and I get permission to do that. Okay? How is that repugnant? It's like, no, this man who was innocent gets condemned, doesn't say a word, and he humbly goes and gives his life up to save people he loves. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. That's a beautiful thing. It's a selfless thing. But again, the left literally cannot fathom. They are incapable of fathoming this amount of selflessness. Because honestly, the leftist worldview is probably one of the most selfish worldviews on planet Earth. Right? You have to respect these things. You cannot. If you use the wrong pronoun, nope, can't do that. You know what? I disagree with the religious rights. You better, as a minister, be willing to do same-sex marriages. You better do these things. Why? Because it's all about me and my views. And you know what? You better give us more money because we want to give that money to other people who might not work, who might not have done those things. But you know what? You keep working so you can support everybody else. It's literally the most selfish worldview on planet Earth. but yet they have the audacity to say that. So, I mean, think about it. Tony Stark at the end of Endgame saved the entire world. Remember, I am Iron Man. Snap, right? Did anyone ask him to do that? How dare? It's just so stupid. You can't make this stuff up. So again, whenever Aslan also saved Edmund. She, of course, conveniently misses this point. Oh, poor Edmund with all the weight and the guilt. Yes, the weight of the guilt of betraying people. The point is that sin or doing wrong things to others, negatively impacting your family or your friends or your community through selfish actions should make you feel guilty. Guilt is, I get so tired of this nowadays. Like, guilt is bad. No, it's not. Guilt is good. Feeling guilt is good. If you've done something wrong, you should feel guilty about it. And you should correct that, right? So that's not bad. That's not a bad thing at all. He should feel guilty. But then he comes down after he receives the breath of life, essentially, and he is born again. That's the whole point here. And it says that he is purged. Yes, he is purified. Again, new creation. You could probably learn something from this, Miss Polly. So Edmund is purged. The family comes together, and get this. The family also realizes that they were too harsh on Edmund and that they all need to love one another and stand up together as a family, as siblings. That's a great story. That's one that nowadays, with our fractured family structures, one that could be pushed a little bit more. Wholesome family things. Like, yes, you know what? You're not going to have another brother or sister, so you love the one you have. And you know what? You look out for one another. You don't try to get one up over one another. You look out for each other. You love one another. Don't be harsh and critical of each other. Support it. Like, these are good morals. Just good grief. So Edmund also realized that his family loves him and that he was resenting them. And remember, resentment causes many problems. As Polly Toynbee, you'd think, would ought to know. She clearly is having some resentment towards some sort of Christianity, and maybe she more sympathizes with Judas. Maybe that's the problem. She was mentioning like Catholicism on here, the way, oh yeah, every time this. Okay, so I love how she's pointing and like bickering about Catholicism. When C.S. Lewis was not a Catholic, actually that was one of the things that frustrated Tolkien with him, was that he wouldn't convert to Catholicism. So like, dude. Oh man. Anyway, it's just, you can't, these people, man, you can't. All right. So Tolkien hated Narnia, she says. The two Dons may have shared the same love of unquestioning feudal power. She calls Christianity feudal power. Get that. With the worlds of obedient plebs and inferior folk eager to bend at the knee to any passing superior white persons, even children, both their fantasy worlds and their Christianity assumes that rigid hierarchy of power. Lord of the Rings, King of Kings, Prince of Peace, to be worshipped and adored, but Tolkien disliked Lewis's bully pulpit. People like this are just, wow. You mean the two Dons share the same love, unquestionably feudal power? It's not about feudal power. Do you not understand the story of Jesus? Apparently not. Maybe I was wrong on the fact that you seem familiar with it. You're just misrepresenting. Because it's not about power. Jesus humbled himself and he said, blessed are the meek and the poor in spirit. Those are things that turn the other cheek. It's not about feudal power. Tolkien also, he didn't hate Narnia. That's an exaggeration. Tolkien wasn't a giant fan of Narnia, but again, who cares? So Tolkien wasn't a big fan of it because basically, you see, like, he didn't like it because Narnia's allegory was too on the nose. But who cares? Because both series are loved by the masses. And even Tolkien was like, he kind of remained indifferent, where he was just like, okay. Like, I'm not a big fan of it, but whatever. Some people seem to enjoy it. That's cool. And also, yes, Jeremy, exactly. That's another thing. Every fantasy series uses feudal economy system, right? Because it's dealing with kings and queens and kingdoms and lands and realms and all of that. It's very feudal in general, right? So it makes sense. And they're trying to portray him as a king of kings, as she said, but this gets worse. I'll talk about that as we go. But Tolkien never said, again, anything said there. Otherwise, again, Tolkien remained largely indifferent, and he never tore it apart, nor did he endorse it. He even admitted that it was good for some people. So again, she's not quite correct there. Also, it is how is this at all anything to do with superior white people? The superior white person in this is the witch. You'd think that they would be okay with that. Like, oh, the pale white witch, yeah, get her. We don't like white people. You'd think that would be a discussion here, but no, it's not. Because again, we have to stick with the narrative that, well, the Pevensies, those 4 kids, yeah, those kids, I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids. Anyhow, if it wasn't for those kids being white, though the kids are white, so therefore it's got to be about white supremacy. But that just does not follow. Again, she's white. It's a European fantasy story. If we had a movie series that was based on like the Egyptian pantheon, which by the way, I'm down for that, and you didn't have people that looked Egyptian, I would have a problem with that because it'd be like, okay. In fact, they did that with Gods of Egypt or whatever that came out like years ago. And it was really cringy. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very good at all. But I would love a really faithful adaptation of that sort of stuff. There's a reason why, again, the God of War series has been pretty popular because it's pretty faithful to the Norse mythology recently, right? Staying faithful to the source material actually works. Anyway, again, Tolkien was a traditionalist. Lewis's stories show that even the animals themselves are valuable creatures. And that's the whole thing. Like when you look at Narnia, the whole thing is supposed to be, look how beautiful this creation is. Look how majestic this is. So even the creatures themselves had value. So only an entirely brain dead person would think that this could possibly be anything like white supremacy, because it is saying that everyone is valuable. Everything is of great importance, and none of it should be discounted. And every life, even that of a betraying, snotty kid, deserves to be saved and under freedom. So, and again, they assume the rigid hierarchy of power, but you say that, but that's what they're assuming. You say no. Read the book and read Tolkien's books. They're condemning power. Literally, the one ring to rule them all is the ring of what? Of what? Power. Because power, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And that's a big thing in Tolkien's works, how power keeps corrupting. That's why it's like a sweet little hobbit that saves the day, because he doesn't have power. He's the most meek among them. Same thing with the Pevensies. Kids, children. But God said, suffer little children to come unto me. It's not about power. They were way outside of their class. In the last battle, it was the reinforcements that saved them. Aslan's reinforcements. There was not about power at all, as far as like some sort of might makes right thing, which he claims of. Narnia, again, condemns the witch's abuse of power. Aslan wants to bring freedom, not captivity, so that people could choose to live their life freely, which means in service or not in service to him, right? Just like Christ did with us. So in fact, Narnians were actually, we're losing the battle. They were powerless, not powerful. So the only powerful figure was Aslan, and he's the only one that scared the witch. The only one. The rest of the time, man, that woman had audacity like no one else. She did not care. So anyhow, let's keep trucking. I was hoping that this wouldn't last too long, but I'm ranting too much. So she says, over the years, others have had uneasy doubts about the Narnian brand of Christianity. Christ should surely be no lion, let alone with the orotund voice of Liam Neeson. He was the lamb representing the meek of the earth, weak, poor, and refusing to fight. Philip Pullman of the marvelously secular trilogy His Dark Material says, he called Narnia one of the most ugly, poisonous things I have ever read. Okay, so remember, guys, the fantasy novels with talking beavers is poisonous. Jesus is described, she says, as a sacrificial lamb, the meek, and all that. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Oh, but wait. What is this in Revelation 5:5? And the elder said to me, weep no more. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has conquered so that he can open the scroll and its 7 seals. Jesus is also described as the Lion of Judah. He's a conqueror. It's almost like people just like read Jesus's ministry and they don't finish the New Testament. It's like, read the end. Jesus comes back with a lot of judgment and with a conquering force. That's what Israel was waiting for, is like a conquering Messiah. Well, you see that when he comes back. That's what he's going to do. So anyway, it's just the whole thing, with the lion, and that's just silly. Anyhow, then when she says that, let's see. Oh, okay, hold on. I think there's something else I wanted to say. Let me pull this up. I apologize. Hold on, let me look at this over the years. Oh, yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with this brand of Christianity. Christianity should have strength to it. Christianity is the one that defended, whether people like the medieval periods or the dark periods, Christianity is what protected the Western world in many, many ways. And it was many Christians who went to war for freedom, such as things in the Civil War to free slaves. So it's like, nope, that the whole idea of Christians fighting for freedom, pretty par for the course, actually. So, but again, we don't talk about that part of history because that's inconvenient when you're lefty. So anyway, she says, why? Because here in Narnia is the perfect... Because here in Narnia is the perfect Republican muscular Christianity for America, that warped, distorted, neo-fascist strain that thinks might is proof of right. I once heard the famous preacher Norman Vincent Peale in New York expound a sermon that reassured his wealthy congregation that they were made rich by God because they deserved it. Okay, again, she keeps like pulling from different people. She finds all the most absurd ones, but oddly enough, if you lined them up on a wall, none of them would line up with everything she's saying here. But anyhow, prosperity gospel, yes, most Christians deny that anyway. She says, the godly will reap earthly reward because God is on the side of the strong. And again, notice the bait and switch there. She's talking about wealth, and now suddenly it's about being strong. So money equals strong, apparently. Not necessarily. This appears to be C.S. Lewis's view, too. In the battle at the end of the film, visually a great epic treat. The child crusaders are crowned kings and queens for no particular reason. Intellectually, the poor do not inherit Lewis's earth. What? First off, I got a problem when she says that Narnia is the perfect Republican muscular Christianity for America. Why I gotta be hating on America, bro? You're from Britain. What are you doing? And again, C.S. Lewis is British. Like, he was English. How is this anything to do with Republican Christians? That wasn't even like a thing, really. Like, what do you... I'm losing brain cells here. Absolutely losing brain cells. So anyhow. So again, none of this follows. Might is not right. Again, that's a major problem in the Christian worldview. That's actually something we don't believe might makes right. That's a big thing Christians don't like, is that might makes right. Because again, Rome was in power, and Rome crucified the Messiah. Again, not a big fan of that. Jesus, because, let's see, that's a major, just because you can, we say this all the time in Christianity, just because you can, doesn't mean you should. That masters, in Christianity, masters, okay, those in power are told to be kind to their servants, okay? Might does not make right on the Christian worldview at all, and in fact, we teach what Jesus teaches, that the meek will inherit the earth, not the powerful, and they become kings and queens because we are told in the scriptures that those who follow Christ will be with him in paradise, and that we will judge even the angels, right? Like, that's a thing that he tells the followers of Christ. So, but notice as well that the 4 Pevensey kids all become kings and queens. Peter's called the High King, but come on, guys, can we not get with the allegory here? His name is literally Peter. Something about Jesus talking to Peter saying, on this rock I'll build my church. Come on. Like the guy who was endorsed by the Messiah himself. That's the point there. He's the High King, but then everyone else is equal with him, and they rule together with him. He's not better than them. He's the first among equals, so to speak. But again, these morals and concepts are completely foreign to people on the left, because actually the left looks at things as power dynamics. They think might makes right, which is why they're okay with rioting, which is why they're okay with taking from people, which is why they're okay with bullying people, ruining their lives, and completely taking away their jobs. That's why. Because might for them does make right. We have the power to do it. We can and we will, as opposed just because you should doesn't mean, just because you could does not mean you shouldn't. That's completely lost on these types of people. And this is what we talk about with worldliness. This is the worldly mindset here. So again, Aslan doesn't say anything about Republicans. Can't believe I have to say that out loud, but apparently here we are. Nor was that a thing in this movie or the books, because Lewis was, again, a British man from the 1940s. Such concepts, again, are foreign to the movie and the book of American Republican Christianity. So, and then she goes, does any of this matter? Not really. Most children will never notice, but adults who wince at the worst elements of Christian belief may need a sick bag handy for the most religious scenes. The Guardian film critic Peter Bradshaw gives the film 5 stars and says there is no need for anyone to get into a PC huff about its Christian allegory. Well, here's my huff. Yeah, I see your huff. Your huff is terrible. Like this, she comes off like a spoiled brat. Like, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, then why are you even complaining about it? So, it doesn't matter? Not really. Then why are you complaining? Why are you writing this whole article and bashing entire droves of people like Christians and white people and Republicans? It's stupid. And as she says that as a white person, I should say. This juicy irony. Never will you find more people wanting to hate themselves for the color of their skin more than a leftist shill. It's a thing. It's crazy. So what do they say to us whenever we complain about LGBT stuff in films, like in The Strange World, which everyone was upset that bombed, or in the Lightyear movie? What do they tell us when we bicker about it? Well, just don't watch it. I don't see why you got to make such a big deal about it. Just don't watch it. If you don't like LGBT stuff in your movies, why are you watching it then? Don't put it in front of your eyes. Well, then, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you don't like Christian allegories and Christian stuff, maybe you shouldn't watch a Christian allegory. That's a thought. Unbelievable. So anyway, she goes on to say, Lewis said he hoped the book would soften up religious reflexes and make it easier for children to accept Christianity when they met it later in life. Holiness drenches the chronicles. Good. What's the problem? When in the book, the children first hear someone say mysteriously, Aslan is on the move. He writes, now a very curious thing happened. None of the children knew who Aslan was any more than you do. But the moment the beaver had spoken these words, everyone felt quite different. Perhaps it has sometimes happened to you in a dream that someone says something which you don't understand, but in the dream it feels as if it had enormous meaning. So Lewis weaves his dream to invade children's minds with a Christian iconography that is part fairy tale, wonder, and joy, but heavily laden with guilt, blame, sacrifice, and a suffering that is dark with emotional sadism. What? Guilt and blame? How's that guilt and blame? Again, it's just, it's not guilt and blame to tell you that there's a God that loves you, to try to weave that into your mind. And again, he weaves dreams by making Aslan very powerful and mystical in presence. Really? So yeah, he's supposed to be God in this. In The Magician's Nephew, it actually literally talks about him singing the worlds into being. So yes, God is connected to his creation. That's what Lewis is getting at here. I am so sorry that you don't like it, but maybe you just shouldn't watch it then. Why are you griping? Also, there are of course would-be gravitas here, but even in the movie, you can tell the way the line was delivered. And I'm talking about the line of Aslan is on the move. That line. So of course that would have it's spoken with gravitas in the film. So even in the movie, you can tell the way the line was delivered, it was supposed to be important. Do you really think the main characters wouldn't get it? And yes, it has deep meaning. Just like when Jesus was saying, repent for the kingdom of God is at hand. It's supposed to be kind of giving that same message. Again, I can't help it that you don't like the allegory, but you know what? Tough, because we Christians don't have that much good media or literature out there. Most of it's trash. So I am glad this exists. And I'm going to be of a minority here, but I'm actually not a fan of the Pilgrim's Progress much either. So I just find it, I don't like that allegory. I know a lot of people love it. For me, I'm like, about it. So, but anyhow, in my mind, like Narnia is one of the few, Narnia and Lord of the Rings are like the few Christian literature things. And I'm like, yes, good literature. This is nice. Hate me in the comments below. That's fine. All right. So finally, she closes with, children are supposed to fall in love with the hypnotic Aslan, though he is not a character. He is pure, raw, awesome power. And he's also loving, kind, gracious, merciful, but we want to ignore that. Remember, she's got to put her slant on it. He is an emblem of everything an atheist objects to in religion. His divine presence is a way to avoid humans taking responsibility for everything here and now on earth, where no one is watching, no one is guiding, no one is judging, and there is no other place yet to come. So you just wanted to have an atheist bend. Okay. Without an Aslan, there is no one here but ourselves to suffer for our sins, no one to redeem us but ourselves. We are obliged to settle our own disputes, and do that we can. We need no holy guidebooks, only a very human moral compass. The very human moral compass that created the Holocaust, Stalin's reign, the Babylonian Empire that was murdering folks left and right. What about the Roman Empire that everyone hates so much because it's like white crusadership, essentially? What about that? Oh, that moral compass? A very human moral compass indeed. Yeah, okay. Or like what happened in South America with all the Aztecs sacrificing people and ripping out their hearts? Yes, very moral human compass. Okay. Everyone needs ghosts, spirits, marvels, and poetic imaginings, but we can do well without an Aslan. So basically, I don't like Jesus. That's what this whole thing was, okay? It was this whole thing about not liking Jesus. So letting the cat out of the bag at the end, really, she just hates religious themes. Got it. Guess Narnia would be better off if it was nihilistic? Like, what would that look like in Narnia? To rip out the religious themes is to not have Narnia, period. You have to rewrite so much of that stinking story to not have that in there. And again, her whole like obsession with like Aslan's power. Yes, God is powerful. Aslan's supposed to be powerful. And but it's also, notice his love. And like he speaks with, dude, Liam Neeson was such a great choice for his voice. But he speaks with like so much gravitas to it and but yet kindness. It's just so well done. Anyway, basically everyone needs everyone needs religion, but she says at the end, right? Everyone needs like fables and all these different things, but just not the Jesus figure type. We don't need that. You know, we don't need anyone dying for our sins. You know, we don't need anyone to take our guilt away, which by the way, again, she exposes it right there. Christianity is attractive because of that, because it says, you know what? We all recognize we've all done evil and wrong, but you have hope. You have meaning. Your life is valuable, so valuable that the Messiah died for you, that God in the flesh died for you, that he became one of us so that way he could die in the flesh so that you could resurrect with him. That's what he did for you. We offer hope. Like Christianity is a beacon of hope to a lost world that is suffering in their sins. Like, and otherwise it's just a cold and indifferent universe. Aslan is not just raw, awesome power. He is beautiful. He is majestic. He is royalty. He is awe-striking. The left always sees things as only power dynamics. That's all they see because they honestly do not understand the importance of order. Like, yes, there's authority figures. It doesn't mean might is right, but hierarchy isn't a bad thing. Know your place. I say what we say all the time, like people need to learn their place. And you do need to learn your place. I need to know my place. You need to know your place. Knowing your place brings you peace. And then if you don't like your place, strive for a new place. But know your overall role. As a man, it was important for me to embrace my role of what made me a man and what makes godly leadership, what makes godly masculinity. And once I understood that, it allowed me to pursue it well. And to find new meaning, same with my wife. She embraces her traditional role, but you know what? She is satisfied in life because she does that. So this whole idea of power dynamics, dude, no, It's not about just that. It's about hierarchy, but they don't want that. They want chaos, and they want to be in power, and they want to put everyone down for it. So she wants to use her power to squash Narnia while saying Lewis's view of power is wrong. That's the hypocrisy. So, Jeremy, you're killing me. Bring forth the holy hand grenade. That's basically what I'm doing right now. So this is why, if you're excited for Narnia to be on Netflix, yeah, you shouldn't be. You should be very, 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 very concerned. And I am, because I can see them changing so much, and the liberal theology today is so out of control, and Christianity is looked down so much, and people hate it. I mean, notice this. The most loving act in the entire movie is what she hates on the hardest. She also hates that he has power. He has enough power to destroy evil, and you hate on that. If you could destroy all evil today and you had the power to do that, I think most of us would. So why is it wrong when Aslan does it in Narnia? So yeah, try to make sense of that one. So anyway, this is the whole problem here. And obviously, Narnia does not represent everything wrong with white Christianity. Narnia is a great allegory for Christianity, and Christianity has nothing to do with being white. There's a lot of white people who are Christians, but heads up, guys, Christianity is exploding in China and Africa. Straight up. And it's not a white religion because literally our Messiah is a Jew. And his entire race is Hebrew. And it's funny because the left will say that all the time, like, he was probably brown-skinned. And we go, okay, and we don't care because they are obsessed with it, or they're obsessed with race. We're not, because we all recognize that we're all made in the image of God and equally valuable. So anyway, that is that. As someone who really enjoyed the 2005 movie, but actually heads up, I actually did not care for the Narnia books much. I loved the movie as a kid. I loved The Magician's Nephew. The rest of them I found very meh. C.S. Lewis's writing style for me is very hit and miss, but I respect it for what it is, and I loved the movie when I was a child, so I will always probably love that film. And yeah, anyway, so what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts of the new Narnia film coming out? And do you not see yourself how this is what's pervading our culture more and more? And this is why Christianity struggles. And this is why it's important for us to learn our theology, learn our apologetics, and push back with proper representations and showing the logical flaws. We need warriors today more than we ever have. And not because might makes right, but because we need people to push back on this sort of thing that tries to throw stones at Christianity, and people might get lost in the rhetoric because she's very much a rhetorician, as you could tell. She's a rhetorician. It's all bluster, it's all sanctimonious drivel, but it's really no substance. But people get lost in that, and they go, oh yeah, because it's been painted and labeled. We got to rip off those labels and show it for what it is. So anyway, Christianity needs more warriors in it, more intellectual warriors who are able to defend the faith with love and defend it with boldness, and also just all around expose it for all this for what it is, which is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And she definitely has earned her job as a journalist for The Guardian, because I'm afraid that I'm not sure she would be much capable of other things. So honestly, I hope she turns it around. And I'm not trying to be a complete total jerk on that. But I'm just saying, when you're being this harsh on Jesus and also on Narnia, and you're being this ridiculous, it's a tantrum. It's just a tantrum. And I don't really think that when you act this way, I really need to show you much dignity or respect, because you're not acting with dignity or respect, and just deserve being rebuked. And again, this was written in 2005, and things are just going to get worse. And if this is how people feel about Narnia, imagine how much more people think about Christianity. And the amount of atheist nonsense I see just on TikTok alone, and how many likes they have and follows, really should be warning the church that there is a tide coming, and we need to push against it. And we need to push against it by learning our stuff, which is why I have a huge passion for theology and apologetics. And that is why this summer I'm hoping to do some outreach activities with my church. And I'm hoping to partner maybe possibly with some people to be able to do it regularly. So be in prayer for me about that. It's something that's been on my heart and on my mind. And although part of me, here's the thing, is I don't think I'd be satisfied in the pastorate too much. I might, if I'm allowed to do the evangelism and apologetics, but usually a lot of pastors, they narrow you down to having to subscribe to one particular set of beliefs, and they don't like apologists doing apologetics things, which is having a broad view. So it's hard to find a pastorate when you're an apologetically centered person. That's like your focus. So I'm looking at getting involved in some apologetics ministry. So be in prayer for that. I actually appreciate that. Jeremy says official statement from Netflix is that they are working with C.S. Lewis Company to make a family-friendly production. No official word on what that involvement is, but it appears his family is involved. Hopefully, but I mean, again, with what they've done with other productions, I am not holding my breath. I want it to be awesome. I really do. Because there is proof that they can do a good job. Like the Wednesday show was really good. I really enjoyed that. Stranger Things is fantastic despite its flaws. There's some great things on Netflix, but for every one of those, there is a Witcher, right? That just falls through. For every one of those, there's another canceled Netflix show. So anyhow, with that being said, guys, I wanted to do this rant real quick. I am soon going to have some other guests on, probably next week, I'm hoping. And I'm hoping to do more live streams because I think that it just helps me interact with people more so. That would be really, really great. And I'm just going to end this with actually Purple Pill Philosophy says the only thing hateful about Narnia is Jadis and Miraz's forces. Exactly. So because Narnia is Narnia is wholesome as hell. I feel like you're trying to do a play on words. Are we trying to do a play on words? Narnia is wholesome as hell. I'm pretty sure that's what you were doing there. All right, guys. But yeah, it is very wholesome. That's what makes it lovely. It's very family friendly, and we should keep it that way. So anyhow, guys, thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to the Church Split. I'm going to go now, and my wife and I are going to go away for our anniversary weekend here in a couple days. So I'm excited about that, and I'm going to go enjoy some peace and quiet away. So with that being said, guys, I'll see you soon. Like and subscribe to the Church Split. Let me know your thoughts of this crazy article in the comments below. Leave us a 5-star review and check out our Patreon if you'd like. If not, who cares? So anyway, with that being said, take care and God bless.